The country's leaders participate in a national prayer service.
A man shot and killed on Bimini Avenue. You got the story straight ahead.
The Bahamas Doctors Union returned to court today.
Newly named Principal Reverend Henry Knowles here at Queen's College discusses plans to help those affected by Hurricane Dorian.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm VAUGHNIQUE. Topping news tonight, as uncertainty lingers over the future of undocumented migrants displaced after Hurricane Dorian ripped through ABACO in Grand Bahama, Immigration Minister ELLSWORTH Johnson says government is working to bring relief to everyone, but immigration laws will be upheld once things die down. Kyle Joaquin reports.
We have to enforce.
With hundreds still in shelters and nowhere to go, the question of what happens next sits heavy on the minds of those left displaced by Dorian, even more so with those who may be undocumented. For those coming out of the mud in ABACO, there is concern over whether there will be assistance for them or whether repatriations will take place. The immigration minister said while government will not repatriate anyone injured or left needing counseling, once that portion is done, the law will take its course.
Those persons who are undocumented, as I said earlier, there's still the rule of law. The law will apply. But while someone is receiving services, most certainly you can't, if someone has a psychological problem as a result, the police does it all the time. You can't decide to talk to them about their status. You have to give them assistance. Christ says that. If they don't have clothes on their back, shelter or food, the Prime Minister leads that and he follows the way of the good book. You have to provide those things for them. But the laws of the Bahamas have not been suspended.
For those who escaped with no documents in hand, Johnson said the Immigration Department has checked its system and has a record of those who are documented. He said government will replace lost or damaged documents free of charge. However, he did send this stern warning out to anyone who makes a false claim or seeks to defraud the government.
If anybody comes to the department and they attempt to defraud the system, they will not be invited to stay, but they will have to stay with us. And we will have to allow the law to take its course.
In the days following Dorian, the government announced that it relaxed immigration exercises on the islands of Grand Bahama and ABACO.
So the statement was that 1, you relax enforcement measures there. 2, that persons who had suffered the trauma of that experience, that the last thing on the mind of the Most Honorable Dr. HUBERT MINNIS or the Minister of Immigration and the Director was to be concerned about people's status. They needed food, they needed psychologists, they needed medical treatment, they would have lost lives, so that's not how we do it.
The immigration minister also sent a warning out to Bahamians who hire undocumented workers.
And I want to say to Bahamians that having regard to all of the circumstances, if you have someone who you want to employ, please apply to the Immigration Department. Go through the Ministry of Labor, because one of the important parts of that is to ensure that these persons meet the standard in terms of pay.
For Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Meanwhile, religious and political leaders came together last night for a national prayer service to help heal the country from the psychological scars inflicted by the killer storm. Jasmine Brown reports.
There was praise and worship.
Come on, sing with me tonight.
And prayer.
There may even be a whole lot of grim discoveries. So we ask, oh God, that you would strengthen them, oh Lord.
Dozens of pastors, politicians, and ordinary Bahamians gathered at Bahamas Faith Ministries for a national prayer service. While 1,300 people are still registered as missing, the official death toll stands at 52. Prime Minister Dr. Hubert MINNIS insisted Dorian is likely to be the greatest single loss of life in the country's history.
We gather united in grief, united in love, and united in service. We gather together to mourn our dead, to pray for the families of those who lost loved ones, to ask for grace and healing for the injured, for those suffering from trauma of body, mind, and spirit.
Opposition leader Philip Brave Davis insisted the road ahead will not be easy, but he says it will take a joint effort for the rebuilding efforts.
While prayer is essential, I send this call to action. We are God's hands and feet. This is a tragedy of epic proportions, and so many lives have been turned upside down.
Meanwhile, religious leaders sought to provide inspiration and comfort during one of the nation's lowest points. President of the Bahamas Christian Council, Bishop DELTON FERNANDER.
I want to say in every shelter, in every home, God is still good, and God is still in charge. And we are still a grateful people. As a matter of fact, we're even more grateful.
Now, last night's ceremony isn't the only event planned post-Dorian. There are also plans for a National Day of Mourning. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Former residents of the Mud are eager to return to ABACO after evacuating the island in the wake of Hurricane Dorian. Some have expressed concern that if they don't leave soon, it could be trouble for them. Jared Higgs has that.
Richie James is only 18 years old. However, the now displaced resident of the Mud says the experiences of the past few weeks have caused him to grow up quickly.
I ain't young no more. Things that I never used to see, I see in them. You know what I mean? So it's different to me now.
James, who left high school without graduating in 2018, is one of approximately 2,000 displaced people living in shelters throughout New Providence. He admits that his current predicament leaves him feeling like a burden.
If you come looking for a job, it's like you basically breaking the people hustle who's in NASSAU. So it's like you're struggling with them too.
The 18-year-old, like many others, wants to get back to ABACO as soon as possible. It is where he says he feels he has the best chance at a decent life. On top of that, the youngster is concerned that if he stays in Nassau, he may get caught up in the capital's crime scourge.
I'd rather be working and then knowing where I could come here and get killed, you know? It's
Are you concerned about crime in Nassau?
A lot. It's something I don't want to get myself involved with, you know?
19-year-old Ricardo Prince tells Our News that he has been incarcerated twice before. Oddly enough, he claims that his treatment in jail was better than the treatment he receives while staying at the Kendall Isaacs Gym shelter. It's no surprise then that the handyman, who often plied his trade in Hopetown, wants nothing to do with the nation's capital.
That's my biggest plan. If the boat could come right now, I'd go on the boat right now. As we speak, to go back to work right now.
New Providence has experienced an uptick in killings in recent weeks. Police are currently investigating 12 homicides that have taken place in the span of 12 days. Different yet difficult times for both New Providence and ABACO. The reality of the situation doesn't escape James.
My mindset is my own mindset, but in a kid's body. So, you know, I know how to visualize things. I know how to visualize things. So I'm vigilant.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
Weeks after an injunction forced them to return to work, junior doctors were back in court today. Jillian Gray has the details.
Lawyers for the Bahamas Doctors Union and government faced off in court on Thursday during a hearing that lasted a little over an hour. It began with the Crown submitting an affidavit from PHA Director Catherine Weish to refute the Bahamas Doctors Union President's affidavit, which states that the holiday pay issue had been resolved and an agreement reached. Lawyer for the BDU, O.B. Ferguson, argued that while there was errors in the affidavit, he would allow the Crown to submit it so as to not delay the matter further. The Crown submitted a total of 5 new affidavits, 3 from PHA Medical Chief of Staff Carolyn Garraway, 1 from Kenyatta Johnson, and another from Catherine Weish. The BDU claims that it is collectively owed $10 million. In court, lawyers for the doctors recounted how the BDU, Labor Minister, and Prime Minister came to an agreement of a $5 million payout over a period of time. The doctors were instructed to meet with the Labor Director to further iron out the issue, but that meeting never happened because PHA officials and the Health Minister reportedly crashed a private meeting between the Labor Director and the BDU. An injunction was ordered on August 27th, 6 days after doctors went on strike. The order instructed doctors to return to work. However, in court on Thursday, Ferguson argued that the doctors had a constitutional and contractual right to use their strike certificate. That strike caused PMH, the Rand Memorial Hospital, and clinics throughout the country to resort to emergency services only. The Crown was represented by Deputy Director in the AG's office, David Higgins.
Court was adjourned until Friday, September 27th at 10:30 a.m. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
A man died in hospital last night after being shot in a vehicle off Market Street. Jared Higgs reports.
Police say it was around 11 on Wednesday night when a man was sitting in his vehicle just behind me on Bimini Avenue off Market Street. That's when he was approached by a gunman who fired shots in his direction before fleeing on foot.
Family members tell Our News the victim is 24-year-old Michael Farrington, a roofer who lived a street over from where he was killed.
I even didn't know somebody got killed until somebody told me this morning.
74-year-old Edward Strawn has lived off Bimini Avenue for more than 50 years. He reacted to finding out that his neighbor was killed.
I think it is bad, and I think that the government need to do more than what they're doing, because I don't think they're doing enough.
New Providence has been grappling with a significant uptick in homicides. In the 12 days since September 6th, 12 people have been killed. Early Tuesday morning, police were investigating the discovery of 2 bodies with blunt force trauma in an apartment off Gladstone Road. Police have since identified the victims as 39-year-old Tennyson Leslie, a Jamaican national, and 58-year-old Gloria Roll, a Bahamian national. Police also identified the man who was killed on Monday night on Bristol Street in Fox Hill as 19-year-old Aurelio Giles Deal. And while the 74-year-old Bimini Avenue resident insists that government needs to do more to address the crime situation, he says there are other factors at play.
Most of what I think, the families, the mother and the father, they don't take care of them. They don't pay heed to them. They don't teach them nothing. So they go straight with anybody who want to buy.
According to Our News records, Farrington's killing was the 75th homicide for 2019. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
And still to come, a private school opens its doors to displaced students. The details after this.